live.
Okay, let's go
And we're
on.
live now.
Okay, and so we are here. It is February 11th. This is the Senate Institutions Committee, and we do not have our normal chair, Senator Harrison, so I'll be chairing today, but we'll go around and introduce the few folks that are here. So we'll start with Senator Engels.
Senator Ross Engels, Essex District.
Senator Douglas.
Senator Sam Douglas from Orleans.
And I'm Senator Rob Hunter, I'm the Vice Chair of the chairing today, and from the Bennington District. Senator Major from the Windsor District will likely be here, but late. And so who we have today are, you go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yes, I'm Laura Trishman, the State Historic Preservation Officer.
And
Jamie Duggan, Director of Preservation at Vermont State Historic Sites.
would you want to come up and sit in Senator Major's chair? Or just sit in the less comfortable chair. So thank you for coming in. We're going to be going over a couple of things, the part of the Capitol bill, and then also specifically talking a little bit about the Bennington battle monument.
Which one do you want to go first with?
But we'll go over the specifics. Section 4 in the Capitol bill, if that's what you were prepared for. Otherwise,
Yeah.
frankly, this is your show, so
Get it to open.
present it to us as you want. As you want.
Yeah.
I'll read that.
Okay, Laura, you have co-host sharing the. I can't get it to open, so see if I can get it very sensitive.
I apologize for being on the table. I was given this and don't feel comfortable just throwing it away. So if anyone wants it,
I'm glad it's beside that thing right there. I'll be looking right at me in the eyes.
we do have all afternoon. I should have mentioned it before, but the agenda is agency commerce and community development at 1 o'clock. Our 2 o'clock session is canceled. So you have all afternoon and all night if you want to.
Oh.
For all of this.
Not necessary.
Okay, I figured you didn't want.
Although some of these topics we could talk about forever.
Yes.
Great love for these programs. I can start in section 4 with the roadside markers, and just give you a story of what we've been doing with the marker program since 1947. We have in production now 332 markers. We've done, I think, 125 in the past 11 years. There, of course, is one in Virginia that we're very proud of, commemorating Vermont's participation in the American Civil War. This program actually started with the legislature identifying 75 places around the state and putting up very large markers, much bigger than the ones we have today, and using them as advertisements for our historic places. The program became so popular that it has continued ever since. This is the list of just this year
I'm not sure.
that we have been working on. Many new installations. We regularly have a list of replacement markers that are either broken, they've lost a lot of their paint, they need to be refreshed that way. Milton Speedway was, we believe, hit by a car and then somebody took it. The poles are designed to be impacted by vehicles and then the marker will just fall off or flyway. Breakaway, thank you. That's flyway is not the right word. And with Jamie's help and with the great folks at V-Trans and Town Garages, we've been reinstalling and installing all over the state. Most of these have had commemoration events. We have 28 applications still pending. We have, I think, about 10 at the Foundry right now. Some of them, again, are just a little fix. We found a typo in the James Whitehall Stonehouse marker, so we're fixing that. Others are brand new markers like Bag Bomb or the Prosper Ski Lodge, or Ralph Ellison, who was the author of Invisible Man, which was written here in Theiston or started here in Theiston. So working with communities to make sure that there's a very safe location where vehicles can pull off, people can get out, read the markers. Quite often the markers have two-sided text, so it's different on either side because there's so many great stories to be telling. These are some of the markers we have put up this year. Old Meeting House in East Montpelier attracted a dedication event of easily 300 people. Fred Nickelwhite was put up because there was mitigation due to some changes to one of the buildings down there. The Historical Society supported having a marker put out to commemorate Fred Nickelwhite, who was an African-American working down in Manchester. Frederick Douglass and the 100 conventions in Middlebury also attracted a great number of people and a lecture afterwards. This is the second marker we have acknowledging the 100 conventions. Annette Parmalee was a reporter and a suffragist who spent a great deal of time in this building. She lived up in West Enosburg, so the marker's put up in front of her former home. And then Champlain Glass Company is another marker we just put up in Battery Park in Burlington, which Battery Park actually was where their factory was located. And when the company went out of business, they deeded the land for Battery Park to the city and said, this must remain a park forever. And it's wonderful that the gentleman who started as an intern then became president of the company. His house is just catty corner from the park. So it tells a great story, and the dedication brought members of his family. So they do attract a great deal of attention. We're very proud of them. Some of them are easily written with text provided by applicants, and we edit real quickly and move them forward. Others take a little bit of time because people give us pages and pages of history, and there's only 765 characters on which we can fit this. So this does not appear as a line item in this year's capital bill.
Why?
I think because there are other priorities right now, and because it's really just Jamie and myself working on this. So it's taking away from a lot of other things we have at the moment. But there is.
This is it would be your wish not to have the money there, just something that didn't get there.
I'm okay with taking a pause,
Okay.
but ensuring that it comes back, because like I said, I have 28 applications sitting on my desk, and most of those are looking at commemoration dates in the future. We do have a number of applications, probably 10 or so, that are related to the 250th anniversary, and we have separate funding for those.
So I just apologize, Chair, but the fact that there's no money in there isn't gonna keep you from finishing what you've already got going with this.
Correct.
Okay.
Those at the Foundry, we've got half the money for those already in the budget, encumbered, and then we need to use the Historic Site Special Fund to pay for the other 10.
Okay.
And in the future, it looks like it's got 50,000 in the 10-year plan. Is that the amount that usually would be appropriated
Yes.
each year?
Yes. And I do think if there is a pause, then we definitely need to increase the amount because people will be wanting these markers. And there is also the option that they could fundraise or pay for the markers themselves. We will still maintain the contract with the foundry, same foundry since 1947. So we want to make sure that we have that going
Where's that found?
Yeah, it's a fine.
in Ohio.
Seawell, so they were founding.
It's the owner's name spelled backwards.
Mhm.
It works.
So I could move on to the historic preservation grants, which are in section 5, line item 51. These are part of the building community grants. It was established in 1986. It's a matching grant. The historic preservation grants are for municipalities and nonprofit organizations providing assistance to rehabilitate and get back into active use buildings that make up a vital part of our downtowns, villages, and rural communities. We have seen roof restorations, foundations, window repairs, stabilization of siding. So it's a vast variety of efforts, and oftentimes we see grantees coming back. You can't get a grant in consecutive years, but they can come back every other year. It's a relatively competitive grant, as it has always been. Since it was established in 1986, it has supported the rehabilitation and preservation of 676 community buildings, totaling over $7 million. And as you can see in the end column, the project costs are, for all the projects that are awarded, is around or over $1 million each year. So this is making a difference in our communities. The $20,000 grants are just a small portion of what projects themselves are costing. But it's definitely a buy-in. It's support from the state. It's a great effort to keep community buildings in operation.
Is that last end money, first end money, seed money, the grant in itself,
We
matching
use-
money?
It's matching money, and we use all that we have. So that's why you will see that the grant amounts are a little higher than what we get allocated each year, because we're recapturing some money.
Mhm.
We're trying to use the oldest money so that it does not get taken
Right,
back.
right.
Because we could use even more, $600,000, $700,000 is what we're averaging in the asks. And the recapture we have seen is largely because of the lack of contractors. But most projects come in, work with us prior to the application submittal. They come in with a full package. They have their contractors' estimates. They've got their contractors on board. And these are awarded each December. So that helps them get right into contracting before construction season. And just some of the great projects that were picked up this year, Miss Bellows Falls Diner, she's going to be getting a new roof. St. Albans Free Library is getting a $20,000 grant. So is the town hall in Putney. And so you can see there's a variety of different resource types and projects. The barn preservation grants were established in 1992. This has just recently moved to a $20,000 grant. It was $15,000. It is also a matching grant. It is for individual property owners, farmers, municipalities, nonprofits, everyone, to rehabilitate and get back into active use historic agricultural buildings. So it could be any agricultural related buildings, not just barns. But it's called the barn preservation grants. So it could be milk houses, it could be sheds, it could be related to the maple sugar houses, thank you. So again, you can see that the total project costs are reaching about $1 million each year. These will be funded later this month. I think next week by the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation. They will review all 31 applications and use all of the funding that they have, which I think is probably about $340,000 due to the recapture. We tend to get more recapture in the barn grants because most of the grants are given to individual farmers. And sometimes taking on these projects without a contractor readily on board is a little bit of a challenge. But they do, for the most part, come back to us. And I would also say of the applications that do not get funded, we see them repeatedly coming back for funding requests. And Caitlin Corkins, who runs this program, is our tax credit and grants coordinator. She does webinars and individual sessions with people so they can improve their applications.
And with those, are they working buildings or?
Yes. Yes. Here are some of those that were awarded last year, last February. And even though, you know, we can award up to $20,000, sometimes they just need $8,000 or $12,000 to help get their project done or started. One great example is the East Monitor Barns right over here in Richmond that we all drive past. They got $20,000. What was it for roofing, I think, as they are rehabilitating that building. The old Wilbur Place in Calais is an active barn. And I wanted to end with one success story that we're really very excited about. Jamie worked a lot on this because of his masonry skills. This is the West Townsend Stone Arch Bridge in West Townsend. It's a single lane bridge. And they needed to take it apart and basically reconstruct it. They got great advice as well from V-Trans. They had a bridge cam set up so that you could watch it daily as the work was progressing. Do you want to add anything on that?
It was a really great project that had a lot of teams involved. The team at the town did an amazing job. The contractors equally did a great job. And it was amazing that they started early in the summer, and in that one season, they fully dismantled that bridge and had it rebuilt. Our money went into the railings actually, and dealing with the above the arch situation, and that really easy to do just because of a lot of the extenuating factors in some of these projects. So, and the highest quality of craftsmanship was executed here. And it was really amazing. I was there for the grand opening, and there was a couple of hundred people at that opening as well. So.
They had federal money as well, which got the National Park Service as well. And this is one of 6 bridges they have in Townsend, and this is the only one that carries vehicular traffic.
Well, there is one other bridge that carries traffic, but it doesn't have the same character as this because it's been altered. It has more concrete on the sides, on the guardrails, and that's one of the most expansive of them all. James Follett was a stonemason and a farmer from the area, and there's actually a collection of a few dozen of his stone arch bridges down in that area of Vermont and over into New Hampshire even a little bit. So
You said they had a federal grant from it. Do you know where the rest of, well, how much did it cost for that bridge? If you know. If you know the sources of the rest of the funds.
yeah, well, the funding they received was congressionally directed spending, correct? From the
Yes.
federal government in the form of the Save America's Treasure Grant.
Okay.
The town did a great job in fundraising, and so they did achieve some, raising some funds that way. I can't remember, I think the town maybe supported a bond at a certain level, and then they, but they were really, it was amazing. They, again, how they came together and really made this project work, on time, on budget, and with great success. And it's, preservation projects can be challenging and don't always flow that smoothly, so.
You said you have a background in scout history, so did you work on it?
I did not, but I did go and visit,
Excellent.
long
I
history.
thought I was talking about you.
Yeah,
And because of the federal funding that's involved, we will hold an easement on this
Mhm.
for 10 years, I think it is, maybe 20. 20 years based on the amount of money that they got. So
Okay.
Jane will be the primary reviewer.
Great. We did lose Senator Engels. Senator Douglas is still on. I assume you don't have any questions since you haven't piped up.
No, I do not. But I want to say how much I admire the work that you guys do.
What do you say?
He said he admires the work that
Oh.
you guys do.
Excellent, thank you.
Senator Douglas had mentioned before about how he's I don't know how you put it, Sam, but you're a history buff in some way.
Yes, yeah, that's what my degree's in. And I worked in a number of museums throughout my life.
Excellent. We've got a number of museums.
Yeah. So in terms of section 5 of the capital bill, those are your two line items?
Yes.
For preservation of the
The others belong to BGS and the Arts Council.
You did the road side for markers. And your other line item was major maintenance of statewide historic sites.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, if you're prepared. Is that like literally everything else
Yes,
that exists?
that's our 84 buildings and nearly 1,000 acres of trails and
there you go.
landscapes and
And I'm brand new with the Senate, so I'm in the legislature entirely, so a lot of these questions are gonna be, I don't know this because
Pretty
I'm
fast.
curious. So like, do you have like a plan on, this is how it's gonna be, this is how the maintenance is going to be worked on, or this is where the money goes for each particular project?
we have a
Yeah.
10-year budget that we're regularly updating. We prioritize the most obvious. Right now, for the next 2 years, I think it's up to 2.4 million, not including the work, the Bennington Monument. Major maintenance is anything from foundation and roof work, chimney repairs, plaster work, window restoration, which we're doing in-house now. Jamie's got a great team of maintenance techs that are restoring a lot of our windows ourselves, which helps with costs and scheduling.
Is that listed somewhere that someone could find it, or is it just internally?
I believe, was that the capital bill?
That's okay. We didn't send it to you, but it is on the House
Okay,
website.
great.
And we can certainly share it with you and come back to talk about major maintenance.
Sure. Share it with us and I'll let Senator Harrison decide if we want to
Yes,
go
absolutely.
further into that. So I guess that's if you jump into. Yeah, frankly, is high in my mind, Benjamin Battle Monument.
Yeah.
Just in time for Senator Engel. We're talking about the monument.
Oh, my goodness. Yes.
And it now has been, it's on VPR and the Bennington Banner read an article about it today.
Was it?
What's that?
It was in there.
Yeah, it was in VPR last
Yeah.
week. And then the Banner went over it today.
So. Are you guys forgive me for asking it, I guess,
Ask.
this is your baby as far as the, the repair stuff and all of that stuff. If there was anything to go on with all of this is you guys.
Yes,
Okay. So
Yeah.
there's no other players involved other than whoever you use or whatever, but this is all you.
yes, the
Okay.
Division for Historic Preservation owns the monument, the gift shop and the land of Monument Circle around it. We work in coordination with BGS to get some of the work done, particularly the studies of the past few years, but this is definitely all us. What I'm really proud of this past year is visitation went higher than it had since 2002, almost reaching 40,000 visitors. And that's just those that paid to get inside the monument, not those that came and looked at it from the ground. Or visited our gift shop, which also is one of our top gift shops, bringing in $276,000, which also was a record.
The revenues from the gift shop.
Yes, and admissions.
Oh, and admissions. Okay. So,
Mhm.
I haven't been in a while. Let's see admission now. You know?
I think we're at $5. And then when the elevator's not working, which happens from time to time, it's just $1 because there's an exhibit down on the first floor. This is the second tallest unreinforced masonry building in the United States, and efforts to construct it started in the 1820s, started again in the 1850s with very little momentum for funding. So it wasn't until 1876 that the Vermont legislature put aside $15,000 related to the centennial to stimulate the efforts to move forward. And then fundraising really took off in 1878. And our own Justin Morrill got Congress to appropriate matching funds for the construction. And then what I will say is the monument really is one of our showcase resources. It is the tallest man-made building in Vermont. We're really very proud of it. You can see 3 states from the exhibition level. This is actually an image of the winning design. There were some odd ones proposed, as you can see up in this upper corner, and the actual construction of it. And at this point, I will turn things over to Jamie, who can talk in more detail.
So these images, a number of them are from late 1880s and 1890s. Construction began in 1887. Cornerstone had a big ceremony when it was laid in August of 87 on Bennington Battle Day. The capstone was placed 2 years after on November 25th of 1889, and the monument was fitted up and finished on the inside by 1891. So there's about 4 years of construction, plus or minus. Inside there's a metal staircase that was designed by J. Philip Brin, who was the architect who designed it. He based the design supposedly off of the Farnese Palace that Michelangelo and Vignola worked on. There are these easy steps. They're not very much rise between them, and they have a generous depth. And so that was the original way people got up to the observation level until an elevator was put in the 1950s. About 306 feet, 4 inches to the top of the 10-pointed bronze star on the top, which is just about the same height as the Statue of Liberty for some context. And it's been designated on the National Register, both individually and as part of the Old Bennington District. Moisture and wet, damp conditions were reported as early as 1903 in the Bennington, I think it was the Telegraph at that time. And cracking in the stone first appeared in the 1920s. Originally, the Bennington Battle Monument Association was the group that spearheaded both the design and the construction and then maintained it for the first many years. That became unwieldy for them, and it was given back to the state, and the in 1953 and in a state of disrepair. Already having some challenges with what was going on. It's also about that time that the monument started shedding stone, and 1954, a stone the size of a man's hand fell off the top. This provoked some repairs. There was masonry repairs that were done, the top 100 feet only. So basically from the observation level up to the apex of the monument. And also at that time, the Monument Association installed 6 electric fans and heaters, 2 different ventilation louvers to help trying to circulate the air, which would, in theory, would bring the moisture level down and sort of abate those damp conditions. So soon after that, the Otis elevator was installed. It was the first elevator in the state of Vermont. I think it's the hardest working elevator in the state of Vermont. It's got 2 stops that are 200 feet apart. And you can see by the conditions back from 2018 here, that moisture is continuing to penetrate in through the building at this time. In between that, there were a number of campaigns, I won't go through all of them, but in the late 50s, in the early 60s, the mid 60s, and then in the 80s. These were points where we knew we had work to do, and in some cases money was allocated, but then shifted to different priorities. There was a period of 6 years when the community was having a discussion about whether or not to illuminate the monument, and it is illuminated today, but money was, for example, taken from a repointing campaign to help pay for turning the lights on. And so the priorities of treatments over the years hasn't really helped the building. The state sort of received it back in a rough condition, and it has had repair campaigns, but they've been piecemeal and they have not been complete.
Nor have they been a study to comprehensively, holistically look at what is causing the problems, which is what we undertook over the past 3 years.
And we learned that the monument's wet. We've been have sensitive testing equipment in there that's been watching weather patterns, watching the moisture and humidity levels. There's some crack monitors that are trying to understand if and how the monument is moving. We know from this effort that the monument is stable. It's not going to tip over or fall apart, but it is likely to continue to shed stone as water remains in the stone with freeze-thaw activity. As water turns from liquid into ice, it exerts tremendous pressure outwards, and that can help crack the stone. Pieces can flake off. So it's created a public safety issue. We took steps last year, installed as attractive as we could find a perimeter fence around the monument, and provided a covered protected walkway so that the public and staff are safe coming from the monument circle and into the monument proper. We started out by looking at what kind of steps we needed to take to understand what's going on. We did have some discussions with the project managers who worked on the Washington Monument about 20 years ago, and had some great insight on how to prioritize certain elements and then sequencing certain components of this study.
Can you talk about who the contractors were?
Yes, we had a great response to our RFP. We had 10 different submissions from reputable firms from Vermont and all across New England and even further. We had a really robust selection process. There were a dozen staff from DHP, BGS Design and Construction, And we worked through that process. Stevens and Associates are our main engineers on this project from Brattleboro. Silman and Associates out of the Albany office, and me and Rebecca Buntrock are the structural engineers who have been looking and doing a lot of the model analysis and overseeing all of the sub-consultants who are on here. We have preservation architects, materials testing experts, petrographers, geologists.
That's last part. Wasn't
Petrography, study of stones.
Oh,
Excuse me.
Again?
Sorry,
What is it?
petrography.
Petrography. I never heard that.
yeah.
And that's the study of stone.
Yes,
Stone in the ground or stone that's been quarried?
both.
Yeah.
And so actually, if you want to just click to another, one of the other slides with real quick.
Oh,
I took it out, okay. We did some coring of the monument in situ.
Okay.
We did a specialty Goodman Jack test that the monument walls at the ground level are 9 feet wide. 7 feet wide. It goes 9 feet below at the below ground section. And we were actually able from the inside core 7 feet deep to understand how that system, the masonry system, is working there. There were cores taken of some of the exterior stone. And then there was some in situ testing that was done right inside the monument with craft monitors and applying amount of pressure. So the consultants and engineers were studying the actual stone that's there and trying to understand how it responds, what its characteristics are. This stone is the stone that's visible is from the Hudson Falls area, Sandy Hill Dolomitic limestone. It was chosen at the time for its durability and its weatherability. There is some questions about that at this point, but as I mentioned, the cracking did start in the 1920s. And what we're seeing is a number of crack patterns within the individual stones, as well as some that translate through the structure. But that, I think it potentially indicates a number of things, that the stone is being stressed, but that it is of a quality that can kind of endure these extreme conditions relatively. I think at this point, it has been so wet for so long that it's sort of become an obstacle that's really hard to overcome. What our engineers have told us the next step really needs to be is to dry the monument out. That is no small feat.
So I'm gonna get my kids and go up the street with a hairdryer and a paper
A
towel.
couple of blue cards tied together.
We can make Lake Bennington. How much water does it hold?
So the estimates are that understanding the porosity of the stone and how much water it might be able to hold. The fact that we are getting 100% moisture readings in our technical gear, it's estimated that it could be holding as much as 66,000 gallons of water.
Really?
And what's that translated to? That's less than a swimming pool, I think.
I think that's a large swimming pool, a very large swimming
An
pool.
Olympic sized swimming pool? That's an excellent question.
yeah.
I'll look that up.
Yeah.
Well, we are right now.
It's only this committee done, right?
So what is being proposed is designing a building enclosure system. Now that's going to likely look like a scaffold frame type of structural system with some sort of a scrim on the exterior and the top that would be waterproof, that would prevent any rainwater or any other windblown rain from entering the monument or collecting on the monument. At the same point in time, there would be a campaign to install a number of dehumidifiers and slowly dry the monument out. This is a real critical part of the process because we can't even do any mock-ups or test the repairs that will be designed because there will be mortar repairs, there will be stone repairs, there might be some patching in places. One of the issues is a lot of the work in the past was maybe leading edge or progressive at that time, but it has proven to be not the best way to treat a building in some cases. And so what is really needed is sort of a heroic effort in many ways to dry this structure out completely, complete the exterior repairs, and then that would give a longer time to be able to then go inside and do some of the interior repairs. But because of the unique design and nature of the structure, it is technically about a 300-foot tall chimney in some ways, in that it's a tall, slender column of air on the inside. And another thing that our environmental testing showed us is that on any given day, whether it be February or the middle of June, there are a number of different microclimates happening within that structure. And it's trapping moisture in certain areas, and other areas it's creating a lot of expansion and contraction. And so it really needs to be treated in whole as one effort. That would be the best way to achieve the shortest time frame of intervention with likely the least amount of cost. The costs that have been projected are for doing a project that way, sort of figuring out how all the money can be acquired at that point and contracting that out, if you will. There are other ways that that might progress, but if the project were to not be fully finished, we would worry that all of this important investigation and understanding of the building would have a limited time frame. The longer the building sits, the more repairs it's going to need, and the more that's going to end up costing in the long run.
But once you dry it out, your plans would be to fix it from getting soaked again. And there's a you know what's causing that, you know what's doing that. Is that just coating the whole monument with something, or just the exposed top points, because that's how the water's getting in?
That is how it was done in the past, and it's covering the top, and that is not a real great preservation treatment. What the right repair would be to repair those mortar joints with the appropriate material. They're often the fuse between the stones, if you will. They're meant to fail at a certain point so that the units do not. And again, those repairs can have a longer durability if the environmental factors that are affecting it can be better controlled.
And I think that goes to the mechanical systems, the dehumidifying that will have to be inside the building. And as Janie said, the different climates being monitored, because we can't just completely seal it up. It's still a living, breathing monument. And we also have to have a cyclical maintenance program, which this has not had, so that we're looking and monitoring things all year round, and we're addressing the situations as they come. So really, I just wanted to go over a quick summary of what we learned. I mean, this is very summarizing, that we've got 100% humidity inside the building. You can even see in this photograph where vertical access is assessing the cracks and loose mortar and stones, how dark the monument is from side to side, and that is the moisture. Drying out the stone, interior and exterior, is a priority prior to any repairs, because they will fail, those repairs, if we do not dry out the monument first. But again, the monument is structurally sound. It is not in danger of falling. Part of our study was examining how such structures fall and the danger of that. We even immediately got our team on the phone after the earthquake in New Jersey. So we've got seismic monitoring going on. And that is part of our cyclical plan going forward as well. And that any funding going to this, we're just starting to explore what that would be. But I can assure you it would not be $40 million in the capital bill. It would not be new taxes or fees. It was constructed with funding from many sources, and that's what we're anticipating. The only funding that we are aware of now that needs to happen is for the design stage and the drawing out. And so the phase 1A is the design of the enclosure system, not as erection, that's a typo in there. Phase 1 and the geotechnical engineering, the site prep, the design. We've got some archaeology in there that a congressionally directed spending funding can help us with. And then preparing of the documents, getting this all ready. And then the erection of the enclosure itself.
What efforts have been made from our federal delegation? Have they acknowledged anything with you as far as this, you know, that maybe they could find some monies or do anything? I mean, how is that communication going?
Yeah, it started back with Senator Leahy, who tried to get a line item in Congress's budget. That resulted in the creation of the semi-quincentennial grant, which we've used for 2 of our other properties, but not this one because we weren't ready yet. We have had conversations with Senator Welch and Senator Sanders, and we did get $500,000 in congressionally directed spending from Senator Sanders. So those conversations are ongoing with them.
And the 500,000 was part of phase 1 and phase 2, am I correct?
No, we have not yet used that money. That will go toward
that's
archaeology, the seismic work, the vertical access rappelling off the sides.
So, yeah, let me explain that a little
Yeah.
so that's clear.
Having to explain, because I'm seeing steps 1 through 3 is 500,000 that you need now. I'm not seeing a timeline, but go ahead and explain as you can. How you want to.
Well, and just first I wanted to point out about vertical access that they have become a key partner in this whole process for 2 reasons. One, they were able to take, we laser scanned the monument inside and out. We really didn't have a accurate set of drawings that could show the amount of detail that's needed at this point. That data was uploaded to the vertical access team, who are an industrial ropes team. They basically rappelled down the monument on sort of coordinated drops with tablets that enables them to stop anytime there's something to observe, take a photograph. That photograph is geo-referenced to the plan set. And then once that is sort of distilled, it gives some quantitative information. So for example, we know that we have 1,300 instances where mortar has failed on the monument. That's quite a bit. In addition to providing this really in-depth data set for understanding the monument, they've also been doing an important work of, before last season, we had them remove any loose or any stone that had the potential to fall. We've been seeing in some high wind events in the last few years, the monument continuing to shed stone as it has for apparently the last 60 or 70 years. By removing those potential hazards, though, it certainly makes the site more safe for the public and the staff. Laura mentioned how important of a site this is for us with the visitation and, what we're able to generate in revenue at the gift shop. So it's really important for us to continue to provide access to the site and to the observation level.
The importance is far greater for the folks in Bennington. It's
Yes.
just to be clear,
Absolutely.
when I heard about this project, I said, okay, this is going to need to be a focus, but it's not. But I need to know timelines. I need to know, who are the partners you're working with in Bennington right now and the Bennington. So this is the sorts of things that I'm hoping to hear. So yeah, but keep going. just kind of telling you what went on.
We were doing the study first.
Oh, yeah.
And that
yeah.
took a lot longer and more money than we expected, you
Okay.
know, the simple,
Yeah.
it's wet inside, fix that.
Yeah,
Was, what we were told, and we
Yeah.
were like, no, there's more going on here.
Good.
Because the elevator would fail, we knew the stairs were rusting. We had a line item a number of years ago to install, the computer system for the elevator, yet it kept failing, and it's because there's so much moisture in the building, the computers keep failing. So we've not been engaging the community yet until we know. We just got these reports in December,
gotcha.
so now we know what is happening. And our next phase is to move to the drawing out phase and the design stage. And this is where we start engaging the community, explaining to them what is happening and what that would look like and how to fix it. This isn't a quick fix. This is gonna take many years, multiple years. We're also working with the design team to keep the monument open as much as possible during the process, you know, so that it'll be covered in the scaffolding and such, and you can still be in it and view out and
Mhm.
explore and examine what the restoration is actually looking like, which is always been something that excites
Yeah,
us.
it's a
So,
good draw.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But these phase 1A and 1B for the drawing out and the design stages, have a 3-year timeline to them.
Yeah, the phase 1A, designing the enclosure system, doing the remaining geotechnical work and site prep. And then actually bidding out that enclosure system. That's likely going to be something that we're going to have to purchase based on the time frame we're going to need it. Be more cost effective that way, and recommendation to them, you know, we can sell parts of it off after we are finished with it. But we're not, I think another thing to be clear about is we're not just setting up for this project. Some of this work will actually be permanently, in order to construct a 300-foot tall tower of scaffolding, for lack of a design to it, there needs to be some subsurface footers that are going to be placed in there. And those would remain in place, you know, be covered back over. But so that a more cyclical, regular maintenance plan could be initiated at the monument. And so that's approximately, we're looking at between 1 and 3 years to complete that. And then the next largest cost would be the 5 to 10 million for the erection of that scaffolding system, building enclosure system.
Why is, and just need to know, because it's a big number.
Yeah.
Why don't we know if it's 5 million or 10 million? Because, you know, again, twice as much
Yep.
is, why don't we know that number?
Well, the design of the actual enclosure system has to be completed first. So that the engineers need to basically design a structure to go around the monument that can be self-supporting, as well as supporting the weight of materials, workers, all that type of stuff. Once they know what that structural system will actually look like, then they will know what is needed at the ground level for foundations or footers to do that. Those numbers are not just pulled out of the air. Conversations with the project manager at the Washington Monument, for example, scaffolding for that was $7 million, and that was about 20 years ago, I think. So certainly in a different economic and construction climate than we have today. But it ended up being one of the most significant line item costs, just because of its size and the design that does need to go into that.
So what we've studied so far is what's happening to the monument. Now we need to get to the design stage, and that will inform line item 4.
So you need the blueprints to figure out.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And we still need to understand a little bit of the ground around the monument. We need to do archaeology.
Correct.
We do think most of it has been impacted because there used to be houses and a street that ran right through the circle. And this would also, our archaeology will include the entire circle so that we're hoping to find the exact location of the storehouse, which was the reason for the whole battle of Bennington. So that we can mark that in the
Yeah.
ground. I've seen a lot of, oh, it was here. And I'm like, how do you know that?
So you said it would be 3 years to complete phase 1A. When does it need to be started? Is there a deadline where, you know, if it's not started by this time, then there's no hope? Or is this something where it has to be started right now?
The longer we wait, the more the monument deteriorates, so that we're not looking at repairs, we're looking at wholesale
Yeah.
replacement of stones. And of course, costs will inflate tremendously the longer that we wait.
So relatively short period of time.
We're looking at a relatively short period of time, but we also want to make sure that we don't get too far ahead of ourselves because of the costs for erecting the enclosure and then moving to the phase 1B. Because everything that we've done so far is also dated and has an expiration date as the monument continues to deteriorate. We do have, as I said, $500,000, and we could, we're hoping that the fencing line item that is with BGS in the capital bill could be moved over. There's $419,000 remaining, could be moved over to help us take care of steps 1 through 3.
You can't just use that for something other than fencing.
I'm sorry?
You can't just use what's remaining of the fenced-in money for this other.
It's allocated through BGS for safety fencing.
Oh, okay, so that would be the legislature would have to do something to change that, is that?
It needs a title change, a scope change. Yep. It can still stay through BGS if that's easiest, because they are a strong partner with us. But I think from this point forward, we're in the design stage. And that's something that we definitely have the qualifications to take on ourselves. And we do have major maintenance, but we get $550,000 in major maintenance for 84 buildings. And our need is not factoring this. So we've spent close to $1 million for major maintenance on the study, which has taken away from the other historic sites that we now really need to be paying attention to.
Yeah, which is how the monument, here it is. So I've been hearing this $40 million amount. What is that?
So it anticipates phases 1A and 1B, subtracting those from the 40 million. And then it anticipates the work that needs to be done
That we know of at this
that
time.
we know of at this time.
So beyond just this, there'd be more needed to do afterwards.
Not in the design or study areas, but in the actual application, moving from drying out to actually repairing.
To repairing.
Yes. Yes. And then we need to factor in an annual maintenance into all of our work, cyclical maintenance, and the cost for that and what kind of contractors that entails, be it vertical access, the elevator company, which has been tremendous in helping us identify issues and the best elevator for us, monitoring stairs and fire safety and any other cracking that we can address. So we have figured out that it will cost us $159,000 a year from major maintenance, so that we feel very confident to open. Is that right?
Yeah, that's for this first year because of the monitoring setup. It would be slightly less than that. Moving forward.
About 13,000.
So even though our study is done, we are continuing to monitor that monument. And that is actually something that we intend to continue to do beyond this project and has been designed into this, so that we have the ability moving forward to understand when the building is not functioning as it is, or showing signs of with water infiltration, for example. By doing that moving forward, we can be more proactive and not let the monument get to the kind of condition we're seeing now.
What you're looking at right now is the schedule that goes with phase
Yeah.
1A and 1B.
Yeah.
So it is a 3-year.
That's a 3-year plan. Is there a similar one for what comes after?
No, not yet.
That would really be developed in phase 1B.
Gotcha.
So, because that is where the final designs, based on the environmental conditions as well as the architectural and structural conditions. As all of those, items are designed, that would help build the overall scope. And another key element of that is the opportunity to do some mock-ups and some repairs in situ to understand, how they're going to work. For example, that would, we would typically, they would do a mock-up, and it might be observed and monitored and checked for, a year or more, a full cycle through the season, just to understand its performance and how it might do. That is a more prudent approach to make sure the repair is the correct repair and it's going to work, and then apply it to the entire building, as opposed to just leaving those means and methods up to a contractor. This is the type of project that really needs to be executed at a high level of skill and understanding of this historic materials. So it does put it in, it's certainly not, the typical project that any contractor can just step on and be successful with.
And the interior mock-ups will be different than the exterior mock-ups because the stone's a little different. There's some marble in there. It's a different climate. And we were careful to make sure that the team we brought on was looking at the building at all 4 seasons, because it does change.
It does.
Yeah.
I live a stone's throw from the monument, so you noticed it the other day. It was ice on the top.
Yeah.
So, okay, now that Senator Major's here, let's start over and do it. It sounds like in terms of this, we're at the end of the presentation for this. We've asked questions along the way. Do you have any questions for us?
I don't think so. This again is not a line item in the capital bill. And we really appreciate everyone's interest. Maybe not all of the attention that it's getting caught us very quickly off guard, but as I said, we were moving from understanding what the issues are. They were much greater than we thought. We contracted for 1 year, and then we were 2.5 years in, realizing that we had a lot of issues that needed to be addressed, and we couldn't pluck out any one of them. Well, let's do this. And I pushed the engineers repeatedly for that. Well, what if I did this? Then will it be okay? And I could spend money on that. But that got them to create this phase 1A and 1B that moves us into the drying out stage, which is critical. That has to happen before anything else can happen. And once that happens, we'll know how much more work needs to be done and how it will be done. It may not end up being 27 million. It may be less, or depends on how much it's pushed out, how much we can do each year, ensuring that we can stay open as much as possible. If we do end up closing for a longer period of time, we've already talked about taking the exhibit panels out of the first floor, moving them into the gift shop, and doing all sorts of other things we could do. And we would love to install cameras so that people can sign on their computer and view out of the monument even now. But also watch the work as it's happening.
Yeah. So it won't be done by the 250th anniversary. It's a 2 years.
If we do this right, we will ensure we've got another 100 years with the monument and making sure that we have a cyclical maintenance plan is essential to that. Which is not something we've ever had for most of our buildings. We are reactive.
Yeah.
Not proactive.
Yeah, I'm expecting that, at least definitely in Bennington, probably in the entire state, and also from like when it was built, there'd be a lot of enthusiasm for making this happen. I think it's actually not a bad thing that BPR showed up and saw what you've done in the house and did their thing.
Because now we're at the stage, I think we can start having community conversations and meetings.
Yeah.
We did have to quickly reconnoiter to talk about the fencing when that went up. It went up faster than we anticipated. And everyone thought, oh, you're putting the scaffolding up. You didn't tell us anything was going on. And we were like, no, this is just fencing. And then it was a lovely red orange color. So we toned that down with some spray paint. So
it looks fine.
you can barely see the fencing in this beautiful picture we got from a visitor.
I think they hid the covered walkway.
Yeah. And it is locked because people were getting inside and having some partying. So we stopped that lock on it when we're closed. It is closed right now. We are not letting anybody up in it. Our site administrator does go in once a week to run the elevator. And of course, check on everything.
And we do continue to have the elevator serviced in the winter, even when we're not open, just to make sure it, again, trying to be proactive. We've had a number of shutdowns and we've been left without an operable elevator for a week or more. And that is a tremendous hit for us in, at the gate. And so
it is a tremendous landmark for Vermont, for Bennington. It is also a tool. It's got FAA lights up on the top for the airport. When we change the lights for different events, we've had to notify them to make sure everything's okay. BGS helps us in actually changing that light bulb, going up in the elevator, up on ladders, outside on a ladder, and all the way to the top. Our site administrator used to do that until I said, no, not doing that anymore. And we want to make sure that the conversations are open and honest of what we need to do. And as I've said repeatedly, we just moved from the study phase. Now we know what we've got to deal with. Now we need to figure out how to deal with it. But we will be opening this year. We plan to keep opening as long as we can. Particularly for the 250th anniversary. None of the events will be affected by any of this. In fact, students will be coming the early part of May before we open as part of the 250th to start exploring.
Great.
And this is a stupid question, everything's safe.
Yes, it is safe. We go out of our way to address safety measures. That includes the fencing, vertical access, rappels off the side for any loose stones. Yeah, and if it's never not safe, we shut it down immediately. Sometimes when it's raining, the observation level can get really, really wet because it rains inside the building. And we've had to shut it sometimes during some severe rain events. And then we mop it up and open back up.
Okay.
Well, cool. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your support and interest in all of our state historic sites. And we can come back and talk about Chester Arthur and
All the
Calvin Coolidge,
84 of it.
84 buildings. Everything from outhouses to presidential homes.
Send us that list. That's good. All right, I think we can go off on.